Cook. We have the SES Deputy Commissioner, Damien Johnson, the Resilience Regional Coordinator, Gary McKinnon, the local member for Ballina, Tamara Smith, Sharon Coldwater, the Mayor of Ballina Shire. We have from Fire and Rescue, Stephen Hunt, the Deputy Commissioner of RFS, Kyle Stewart, and the Unit Commander here at Ballina, Jerry Burnich, will also speak, but we're also blessed to be here with so many of the volunteers from the SES. And from my perspective today, with the Minister, it's been a great opportunity to go out to some of the evacuation centres here in Ballina and meet with many people who have gone through an incredibly tough time. I must say their spirits are incredibly high. Their spirits are high, and what we've seen here in Ballina is the great Australian spirit. We've seen so many people come forward, whether they're registered volunteers to the SES, the RFS or any other government organisation. We've just seen members of the public come together and lend a hand. It has been flat out here for the last 5 days, and it's been an absolute team effort. And to me, it just demonstrates why we should all be proud to be Australians, because this coming together of community spirit and looking out for our neighbours and getting through, even speaking to many people who still don't know if their homes will be there when they get back or what the extent of that damage will be. So many people just saying, well, you know, there's worse people off than I am, and the concern for other people, for others, particularly in Lismore, Karakau, other areas around the Northern Rivers who are also doing it incredibly tough. For those who have gone through a very difficult time, from my perspective as Premier and up here with the Minister, we'll be doing everything we can. We're currently dealing with the immediate. We're dealing with the shock of the situation. We're dealing with getting people back on their feet into housing. We're still in a situation here in Ballina where telecommunications are down through much of the Northern Rivers. But we will get through this, and then the long journey of the rebuild begins. I want to particularly thank, I had a great opportunity to privately meet with members of the SES here. You know, they have done an absolutely amazing job, just like our members of the State Emergency Services right across our state during this difficult time. But they've been run off their feet. They don't know what day it is. It's all become one. And to hear the stories of the calls that they've had to make, not knowing if the person that they're speaking to at the other end is the last call they'll ever make. It's been incredibly emotional, but they remain incredibly strong, and it's a spirit of the people behind me that I think makes everything great about our state here in New South Wales. And I know as Premier, by speaking to them, it's their courage, it's their bravery, it's their spirit of service that demonstrates why we've been able to get through what has been an incredibly difficult period of time over the last few years. Whether it's been floods, fires, drought, floods again, the pandemic, our people stand strong. And from a government perspective, we're going to be here every step of the way because, yes, there are temporary issues, housing issues, telecommunication issues. The clean-up is now beginning right up here in the Northern Rivers area. Many communities are still isolated, and we'll try and get in as many of them while we're up here. But we will get through this. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a long road, but I have complete confidence, not just based on what I believe the government response will be in making sure we put every single dollar in helping every single person get through this, every single business getting back on its feet. It's going to be a tough journey. But what fills me with confidence is the spirit of the local community, but ultimately the spirit of the volunteers that we have. Someone came across the road earlier on today and he was talking about the need for better government coordination. But he said, you know what steps up when that's not in place, when these shock 1 in 500 year floods occur, the community steps up. And the community, this place in many ways has been run by volunteers for the last week. They've been non-stop since Sunday, and they're still here today taking calls. We had telecommunication systems down. We went back to the old ways of doing things up here, and they did it. And they They rescued many people, saved many lives. And that's a testament to each of the people behind me, the entire teams who have been here. Some of the people behind me have also lost their homes, and they're here and have been here for 5 days, 6 days during that period of time, not looking after themselves, looking after the people in their community. And that gives me great hope in terms of the recovery that will come next, and that I know the communities of the Northern Rivers, including right here in Ballina, will come out stronger the other side. A couple of other points. There's a few speakers today. Yesterday we had the first meeting of the Crisis Policy Committee, which went through an entire coordination as we moved through. Certainly acknowledgement, and the key ministers in the government who have portfolio responsibilities for the recovery and beyond know that there is a long journey ahead, and the expectation that the government will be there every step of the way to help our communities through. We made a decision yesterday that we'll be appointing a Minister for Flood Recovery. That minister will be sworn in as soon as she can get back to Sydney, and that will be Steph Cook, in addition to her roles as the Emergency Services Minister. She will be the Minister in charge of flood recovery for our state, in coordinating all the various agencies, all the various issues that occur across the board. We've done that in the past, and I think it's incredibly important that the public service understand that there is a key person who doesn't just coordinate from a ministerial perspective those areas of the government, but in addition to that, all ministers in my cabinet who will have a role to play in ensuring that every single person gets through this difficult time. Finally, I'd like to make the point that we're obviously still seeing difficult conditions right across our state. This flood event, wherever you are in New South Wales, is not over. Please do not be complacent. When there are evacuation warnings in place, please follow those instructions. When there are evacuation orders in place, please leave. Please don't drive through floodwaters. We expect to see flash flooding over the course of the week. I think Sydney, could have been much worse yesterday. We're very fortunate that it was not as bad as we anticipated. Obviously, we are still concerned about the Hawkesbury and Nepean area and flash flooding in other areas, and including particularly the Central Coast and Hunter regions. Steph Cook will provide some further information to that. But it's not the time to be complacent. Following those instructions helps save lives, protects you and your family. To that as well, it protects these guys behind me. The guys who put their life on the line protecting people and keeping them safe. And the best thing that we can do to help those volunteers that every single day put their life on the line to look after us is to follow the instructions that they provide, the advice that they're providing in, and that will ensure that we continue to get through this. So finally, I just want to say, today being here is difficult. It certainly gives me a great perspective of the challenges that have been faced over the past 6 days, and more importantly, the challenges that we'll face over the many long months ahead. But we will get through this. The spirit is high. And I just want to end hearing some of the stories today and the emotion that many of these members have gone through in saving lives, in putting their lives on the line to get people through. In some ways, though, fills me with great spirit, knowing that the Australian spirit is alive and well in Ballina and right across our state. Now I'm going to pass to Steph Cook. So Steph will speak. Then we'll hear from Gary McKinnon, because obviously the coordination will now be occurring in terms of the recovery and resilience. New South Wales will be playing a role in that. Tamara Smith, the local member for Ballina, will then speak in terms of the challenges in the local area and what her team and what she's seen on the ground over the past week or so. And then I think it would be important to hear from Jerry Burnage, who's the commander here, because I think there's nothing better than to hear from the person who's led such a great team here on the ground in Ballina, saving lives and getting people through. Steph.
Thank you, Premier. Well, I'm both honoured and humbled to accept the role of Minister for Flood Recovery. The Premier and Deputy Premier spoke to me about this important role yesterday, and I'm all too happy to take it on despite the challenges that we see and are in front of us. These communities have been through a hell of a lot. From surviving the initial emergency, we have a long road of recovery ahead, and I'm determined to make sure that every single person gets back on their feet as quickly as possible. It is my privilege to lead a multi-agency response, both in relation to the emergency itself and now as we turn our attention to the recovery space, to ensure that all government departments right across government are working closely with the federal government, with our other agencies, with the not-for-profit sector, with companies, with non-government organisations and local government and the community itself, to ensure that no one is left behind, to ensure that we get our communities back on track as quickly as possible. I also want to pay tribute once again to the incredible courage of our volunteers across all of the emergency services organisations. I have the great honour and privilege of being here today with the RFS and supporting, of course, our SES, our local SES, and they have been working around the clock for days and days and days. They're sleep deprived, they're just hanging in there, but they are staying strong, and I know, coming from their ranks, that they will see this through right to the end. In the toughest of moments, all you have to do is look in their eyes and give them a hug, and you instantly feel inspired and able to pick up and carry on. And I really want to say thank you and really express that deep gratitude that I know people across this community have, but in fact people right across New South Wales have that deep gratitude they have for our SES volunteers, and of course so wonderfully supported by the RFS, by Fire and Rescue New South Wales, by New South Wales Ambulance, by New South Wales Police. We've got the Volunteer Rescue Association, Surf Life Saving New South Wales and Marine Rescue New South Wales. These are the organisations that make up the emergency services in New South Wales. Some 176,000 volunteers right across those services, and we've all stood firm behind the SES during this time, helped out wherever we can. But of course, it's been in partnership with what are truly wonderful communities. The spirit that I've seen in these communities today, it's just breathtaking, absolutely incredible, and spending time in the evacuation centres with both volunteers, with people leading the effort to set them up and make sure people are looked after.
If you would like to continue watching that